America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, welcome. Last of all, I think we're going to do roll call. Commissioner Newell, Foster, Sorber, Ward, Kaiser, all seven. Commissioners are making these decisions for the day. And none, consent agenda. I do not see any bills, but if there is anything, the fact of the builder's supply, I have a financial stake in that. I would be abstaining from that item. That is the one thing.
Move to accept the consent agenda for A and B,
Second. You want me to see as well?
shall we? A, B, and C.
It's okay with you guys? Yes. All right, then move to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Ward, seconded by Commissioner Sorton. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Comments from the public. A little bit of an agenda change today to try to make things clearer. What I'd like to do is take public comments that are not related to the next energy ordinance first, get those out of the way. And then when we move to, we're actually going to move that whole business item, first item. So a couple minutes later, then anybody who would like to speak on that ordinance can do so. So, is everybody on Zoom hearing? Is that working well? Yep, got a thumbs up there. Okay, all right, thank you. So with that, is there anyone who would like to speak to the commission on items other than resolution 2024? Is there any hands? Jan, did you want to speak to your?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't really wish to speak. I would ask maybe for an update. We had some discussion in previous meetings about the rerouting the truck traffic, and I just wondered if there was an update on that.
Stealing my thunder.
I can tell you, the question for those online, if you couldn't hear, is an update on Magnetics traffic flow change. I have not received anything back yet from Magnetics on how that will work. We did walk the site and we looked at where the potential scale could go, and they're working out some operational ideas before they move forward. So we should have a plan soon, but I don't have anything to report on that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody? Not very good at it, but it doesn't look like anybody online had it under this section. All right. Old business. I would like to move resolution 2024 up to the first item of old business. Everybody's here to speak. And what I wanted to do was ask Sean to give a staff report, then take the public comment, and then ask the tenant to speak, and then we'll make a decision. With that, Sean.
Good morning, Commissioner. For those of you all, nice beautiful day. Hopefully we're turning the corner on the weather. As you all remember, we had met on March 14th to discuss this resolution, and it was decided then to table it to get a full complement of commissioners here to do a vote, which you always have the right to do on an amendment to a lease. Take the time to review things. As you remember, the recommendation by me was to approve the resolution to defer the rent as requested by Next. And part of that reasoning is we've received about $3.5 million from Next over the past less than 3 years, with the lease payment going into effect in September of 21. Per terms of the amendment that was written before that, so that was scheduled. And we know that the EIS process has taken a lot longer than they thought. We're in the third year now of the EIS process, with potentially no decision or no draft EIS until Q3. I'll let Chris speak a little further to some of those details. So that's but some other issues that were unanticipated, I believe, by Next. And I don't believe that when we were working, initially on an option and then the lease, that we anticipated any, this taking as long as it has, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, because we'd really like for them to be turning some dirt, so that's the other point, is they've spent $3.5 million on some property that they haven't even been able to turn any dirt on, so. That's, I think, needs to be taken into consideration. So as you know, the recommendation is to approve the resolution. And I'll take questions.
Any questions of Sean? Before we open public comment?
Are we gonna discuss it afterwards?
Yes, sir. Yeah, if you want, absolutely.
And you'll hear from the public and then
Yeah.
Mr. Eford as well.
And we'll have a lively discussion and do whatever we decide to do. With that, we'd invite public comment from the next interview. Please let us know, come up front and let us know your name. Anyone here would like to come on? We're going to try to limit it to 2 minutes roughly. We'll cut you off with a word, but if I start pointing to my watch, we'll get to your final points. Thank you.
Call it net, I think it frowns. But it doesn't hold for three. I find it. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Linda Horst. I live in Kelso, Washington. My comments pertain to resolution 2024-3. Next November 27th, 2023 letter to the court unilaterally requests deferring themselves of $93,000 of the $108,000 monthly rental obligation. Compounding this astounding request, Next then brazenly remitted unauthorized lease fees of a mere $15,000 per month for the past 1 month. By approving this resolution, you will be condoning these blatant actions and will immediately create an annual financial setback of $1.1 million for this public agency. The gains for Next are obvious. Let's review the losses for the port. Number one, the port's most profitable property, Port Westward, accounts for $3 million, almost half of the total port revenue. Imagine 1.1 million less revenue. Two, Appendix D of the port's strategic plan, January 12th of 2024, states, quote, operating expenditures have been increasing faster than revenues over the past 3 fiscal years. Continuation of this trend is not sustainable and would limit the level of capital investment the port can undertake in the future. Unquote. Imagine $1.1 million less revenue. 3, deferring revenue of $1.1 million would be fiscally risky gamble. Remember Odessa, Washington. Some of Next's current and former leaders abandoned that tiny farming community, leaving behind a $400,000 toxic cleanup site, unpaid bills and taxes, and the Odessa Public Development Authority. Good people like you were left short $200,000 in background. This board is a public agency with strict requirements for fiscal responsibilities and accountability. You and Next have always promised this refinery would bring economic prosperity to Columbia County. Adopting this resolution is the antithesis of those promises.
Hey. Who would like to speak next?
Like
You can leave one if you like.
Yeah.
That helps.
Can we confirm that, folks online can hear okay? I know we got a thumbs up there. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear. I feel like somebody would raise their hand by now.
Framework.
If Next does what they originally promised, I support this company and want it to succeed. That's a big if. Sources of the feedstock, their questions about the rail yard. And the plant, trying to create a huge rail yard, as well as the detrimental effects of their mitigation in the beaver drainage districts are huge problems that have never been addressed. The only reason that renewable diesel is the actual product is because of the government requirements and subsidies. And research is showing that maybe renewable diesel is not such a great product after all. All of this puts the viability of this company into question. Then Next failed to fund their SPAC, which their CEO himself said was critical to the funding of this company. It is now clear that they are struggling financially. The writing for this company is on the wall. It would be one thing for Next to request a rent reduction and ask the court to help them. But instead, they have demanded and taken a rent reduction without your input. Imagine if all of your tenants did that. Just said, "Wow, we're gonna pay you 10%. What would you do? God forbid Next actually ends up coming here. They are already treating you like they're your bitch. If they actually are here, you will be on your knees. I would like to know why it is that the only person that seems to have any involvement in this commission is the one person that doesn't have it. Stand up, have some background. This is ridiculous that this company has behaved this way and has already taken a rent reduction without even having a hearing before this commission. And I'd also like to know why it is that this happened in December, but the first mention of it was now, at your last meeting. And what, a full-time attorney, what is he doing all day long? This is a clearly failing company that is on life support. By succeeding to their demands, you're not helping them. All you're doing is delaying the inevitable. In the meantime, you tied up your valuable port land for how many years? You have a full-time marketing person that can market this land to somebody else that can actually use this land and do something with it instead of it being tied up. You're already in financial situations that we've talked about. You've canceled your maintenance building because of financial issues, and now this company is saying, yeah, we're gonna do what we want. Have some backbone. Deny this black bill, cancel Next lease. If they don't agree to immediately pay all of the rent as well as the back rent, they don't have a company with that lease. I have a feeling that they're not going to treat you that way once you tell them that you will pay or you will be out of here. Thanks.
Thank you. Others in the audience? Bill folks. And please, introduce yourself at the start of your comments. No, I can't see him. Good, Dan Series. So Mr. Series, are you available?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Go ahead.
Members of the commission, my name is Dan Sears. I'm the advocacy director for Columbia Riverkeeper, and we urge the port to reject Houston-based Next proposal for a rent deferral and the Third Amendment to the ground lease. Yesterday, we submitted a petition signed by over 500 people, many residing in Columbia County and the lower Columbia River, urging the port not to approve the resolution. The petition states, and I'll read it, Next should resume paying its full rent on time and as agreed. If Next refuses to pay full rent, the port should cancel Next lease and seek compensation for the past due rent. For years, Next project has changed shape in ways that undermine the community's trust in Next and the port. Despite promising not to create significant rail traffic, Next now proposes adding over 3 miles of tracks within the Beaver Drainage District to accommodate frequent rail shipments. Next has already displaced a local farmer, an unacceptable harm for a project with so many flaws and questionable financial footing. Next unilateral decision to stop paying full rent is causing significant uncertainty for the port's finances. The port commissioners should recall that Next current and former leaders were involved with a clean fuels project that collapsed and shorted the Odessa Public Development Authority more than $200,000 in back rent. And our petition cites there a story by Tony Schick from OPB. So please take the responsible course of action, require Next to pay full rent. If that is not possible, the port should cancel the lease and obtain compensation for the unpaid rent, totaling more than $280,000. So that's the petition language signed by hundreds of people, all of whom are paying attention to your decision and the action you're taking as a public port. My own comments at the last meeting, there were many questions and concerns raised by community members who live in the Port District. We've heard two more speak today, Brady and Linda. At least a dozen people spoke in opposition to this resolution. Since the last meeting, Next has contradicted itself regarding at least one reason given for the rent deferral and Next unilateral decision to stop paying full rent. Chris Eford told the port in a November 27, 2023 letter that the incident at the dock was a factor causing Next to seek a rent deferral, specifically stating that the dock incident, quote, renders any existing or estimated timelines void and additional development activities uncertain, end quote. This is in your agenda packet on page 16. Last week, Next told the newspaper something totally different. Next spokesperson Michael Hendricks told Oregon Business Magazine, quote, the dock repairs have not delayed anything on our end as we continue advancing through permitting towards approvals, end quote. The resolution does not reference the dock incident, although it was a factor in Next's request to stop paying full rent, according to Next's own letter. After the letter, Next simply stopped paying its full rent. That's outrageous. Next also offers the justification that the permitting process is taking longer than they expected, calling it extended. But many people in this community pointed out very early on that a project as massive as this one would require a detailed environmental impact statement. Next proposes a huge refinery in the lower Columbia River. This has regional implications that a rigorous EIS must evaluate. The timeline has been driven by Next's own shifting plans and delays, not the agency's. The addition and relocation of miles of new tracks is an example of the type of project change that requires study because it would impact the nearby community and uprail people in Columbia County very significantly. Additionally, Next spokesperson told the Chronicle, Will Lohr, that Next, quote, has all of the key state permits, end quote. This is blatantly wrong. Next has applied for but not received a Clean Water Act Section 401 certification from Oregon DEQ. This is a key state authorization without which Next cannot proceed. Next has not resolved basic data gaps regarding impacts to soils, dikes, drainage systems, groundwater levels, and water pollution, among other issues. The resolution describes this as, quote, tremendous progress. Next DEQ application relies on old data, stating, quote, a geotechnical report was prepared in 2001 for a prior development opportunity at the site. The subsurface investigation located the groundwater between 2 and 4 feet below ground surface, end quote. Conditions may have changed in the last 20 years.
Mr. Series, I'm gonna need you to wrap up real quick here.
Okay, I guess I would point that out, that, Next proposes to leave to the final design phase work that should have been done already. In short, the timeline is driven by Next's own inability to move the project forward. We urge the commission not to approve Resolution 2024-03. Next should pay its rent, and the port should look to exit this failing and poorly conceived project. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Mr. Gordon was next.
Hi, it's Diana Gordon. I live in Washougal, Washington. I'm very disappointed that the county commissioners approved the rail line for Next last week, and I think it's a tremendous mistake. I think it would also be a mistake to allow Next to pay a rate of rent far below what they committed to. A company should stand by their promises and not seize upon a convenient accident to go back on them. Right now, you have a rail line extension across low-lying farmland protected by dikes that both the BDIC and the Army Corps of Engineers find inadequate. If there's an earthquake, this is an accident waiting to happen and potentially a Superfund site. A company related to Next called Transmesis decamped and left the city of Odessa, Washington with just that scenario: pollution and unpaid bills, taxes, and rent. There are other companies with better track records that I think would be a better investment. And I need to correct a mistake I made. At your last meeting, I mentioned that the Port of Camas Washougal was renting their empty rooftop space to community solar project. I assumed they were getting paid for it. However, it turns out that they offered the space to the Clark PUD without compensation, a move that has proved very popular with the public and sparked the interest of other businesses considering locating at the port. Clearly, the rent would not have been much, but it was very good publicity for the port industrial area. I think it's time to turn Mother's picture to the wall, get out of this dubious deal, and tell Next to find somewhere else to pollute. Thank you.
Thank you. Like the next one in line, I think was.
Alarm goes off at 8:50.
Was Mrs. Hazen next?
Good morning.
Is that you, Debbie?
Yes, am I next?
Okay. I skipped Greg, I'll get him next, go ahead.
Hey, my name is Deborah Hazen. I live at 346 Northeast Fifth Street in Clatskanie. My house has been owned by my family for 100 years, and it is on the Port Westward truck route. I am here today to express my strong support for the next project at Port Westward and my gratitude and appreciation to the port staff and the port commissioners who have been working to secure over 200 family wage supporting jobs and the enormous property tax valuation that Next would bring, and which would hugely benefit our countywide and Clatskanie area public service districts. Prior to my retirement almost 10 years ago, I was the third generation of my family to own, publish, edit, and report for the Clatskanie Chief newspaper. In my over 40 years of reporting, I watched the Clatskanie Business District decline to almost nothing. The school district closed 3 rural schools and cut back programs. The population remained stagnant, and the number of local jobs shrink by the hundreds, not to be replaced. Next is the best project in terms of jobs and benefits to tax-supported public services that has ever been proposed at Port Westward. It has encountered expensive, time-consuming delays in permitting while paying over $1 million a year on port property. It doesn't know yet if it will be allowed to develop. I encourage the port commissioners to do the right thing, the fair thing, and approve the proposed lease amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hinkleman, are you going?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, port staff. My name is Greg Hinkleman. I am the city manager for the city of Clatskanie. And on behalf of the city and the city council, I'm authorized to continue my expressed support for, and our support for the Next Energy project. With that and seeing the progress and machinations that are occurring for this project, we are in support of resolution 2024-03. I think it is wise and important for an organization like yourself to work with your tenants, especially in the development phase, to bring a project to fruition. And if that requires amendments and changes in lease and et cetera, I applaud that. I've had to do similar things here in the city to bring projects to fruition. Most recently, a 102 space RV park that opened in Clatskanie last year. And we worked with the developer on that with different fees and what have you to accommodate their schedule and help them out with eventual fruition of the project. So I think this is wise. I encourage you to vote yes on the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinkleman. And yes, let's move on.
Jasmine Woodley. Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Good morning, Commission. Jasmine Lillett, Clatskanie, Oregon. I urge you to deny Resolution 2024-03. This is a pattern for Next. As you know, Next current and former leaders were involved with the Clean Fuels project that collapsed and shorted Odessa, Washington Public Development Authority more than $200,000 in back rent. The local, regional, and statewide community opposing Next has warned you many times that they were going to run out of money and move on. This is a pattern. From my research, this is what the leaders of Next have done for the last 2 decades. Start a project, fundraise, permit, and move on before completion or shortly thereafter. If you do approve the resolution today, I'd like you to at least acknowledge to the public the significance of this decision, instead of acting like this isn't a big deal and it's just part of their lease agreement. Financially, this is a big deal for the port. You set goals around receiving this rent. You went through an entire strategic planning process around receiving this rent and set goals around dock expansion that will benefit Next. The port prematurely terminated a lease agreement with Warren Seeley, destroying about 10 acres of organic spearmint to make room for Next. And even Next says they don't know if this project will happen, and they might sell it to someone else if they do get their permits. It takes a long time to certify land organic. The lease with Warren Seeley was something that was already creating value for the community and the region. And although I understand Warren leases lots of land and has a really fair agreement with the port, and this value is small in comparison to what Next proposes, it's still important to acknowledge that if Next doesn't make it, 10 acres of organic spearmint was destroyed for no reason. This represents an obvious trend of continuous quick decision-making to accommodate a company that, again, doesn't have a successful track record. Next should have known permitting would take years at Port Westward, many years. Their entire building site is in the Columbia River estuary, surrounded by agricultural land and ponded for a good part of the year. I think the port needs to emphasize that risk more in their strategic plan and to tenants that are interested in Port Westward property specifically. Next is also continually changing their project, which delays permitting. If this was a deferment and the company had a clean track record, maybe this wouldn't be so concerning, since it is a provision in their lease agreement. But they don't have a clean track record, and the port should put them under some financial scrutiny. Ask for financials, get better assurance they'll pay once their company dissolves in the next year. Hold them accountable. What do your other tenants think about this? Are you setting a precedence with this decision? Are you giving special treatment because of the size of the company and the fact that they have already paid you $3.5 million in rent? Please think about this more deeply and acknowledge the weight of this decision. Thank you for your time and consideration. Jasmine.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Haley Watson, I am with the Columbia Pacific Building and Construction Trades Council. I just wanted to share, Oregon keeps making it harder for businesses to locate here. And that means that our hardworking union families in Columbia County are missing out on opportunities. Next already has state and local permits, which is a huge accomplishment. And I hope you do consider their request and approve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the one. Looks like we've covered everyone online. While we're waiting, is there anyone else in the room that wants to come? It hasn't already. Sure, come on the board, please.
Yeah, Melvin Holmes, represent the Department of Community. Well, I'm in favor of this because it would bring job, wages, and benefits. These small towns need it, as far as, high schools get into the trades. I think it'd be a wonderful idea, if it's going, because it would create a lot of jobs with good benefits and wages. So I am all in favor. It's gonna be a long job. It's gonna bring up this community. A lot of money going back in the community and get a drive over to Portland or anywhere else to, buy things that we think we bought right in the town with this job.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Did anyone show up online that we missed? Steve, did we move on? So that's okay. All right, thank you all. and for working with the agenda. Mr. Eber. Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioners, staff, thank you for the opportunity this morning to talk to you. So, before I provide an update kind of on where things are, I want to kind of clarify something. Just to be clear, we actually have two agreements with the board. One is the lease. One is a site development and option agreement. The option piece was an option to enter the lease. That part obviously was superseded by the lease, but the site development agreement continues to operate. That will continue to operate until the facility declares, within commercial operations. Inside of that site development agreement, there's a variety of things related to site development. They include permitting, all sorts of various easements and land uses, et cetera. And so as we look at that and we look at, what has been accomplished and what still remains to be accomplished, we are still operating under that agreement and we are continuing to work with staff on things like easements and right of ways. After, I guess 2018, almost 6 years, we still don't have those easements and right of ways. And that's honestly no fault of the board. The board's been working very hard, staff's been working hard, the advisor's been working very hard. We have to cross TVs, leave them, and that's a challenge. And so we continue to work on that piece. Just to clarify, there are two agreements that are operating out there, and one of which we're still trying to get things done on. Just a couple of other things that came out of comments just to address. There actually is no inconsistency between what I said relating to the dock and what Michael said. The port has done a tremendous job in bringing the dock back up to operational status after the unfortunate barge incident that occurred. My understanding is that it is now, either now in service or soon will be. When I made my comment back in November, it was accurate. When Michael made his comment the other day, it was accurate as well, because the dock is there's no longer an issue there. It works, and as I understand, the port's plan, they will continue to do work on top. Also, I want to characterize one other thing. People may say this is a good distinction about a difference. I would disagree. We're not looking to adjust our lease rates. What we're looking to do, when I first reached out to the director to talk about this, it was because of continuing development activities, the EIS, being the big one, easement, right of ways, et cetera. So listen, this is going to take significantly longer than it had already taken. And just remember, when the new lease kicked in September 1, we were operating under the assumption based on conversations, written indications from the Corps of Engineers that this project would require a environmental assessment, an EA, a much quicker process that we had already prepared a full EA based on that guidance. On Christmas Eve 2021, several months after the lease kicked in, we were informed by the Corps that no, that's not going to be the case. We're going to have to do a full EIS. They actually did not provide reasoning for that, which is fine. The Corps has absolute discretion. They can do whatever they want to do, quite frankly. And so at that point, we pivoted. And at that point, there was a recognition that this was going to be an extended process. Now, based on guidance from our consultants and experts, they indicated that, hey, a lot of this work has already been done. This could be an 18-month process. Well, it's turned out that that's the case. And we are continuing down the process and are probably looking at about a year. I'll touch on that to get into my update. And so the idea was then, okay, director, let's shift back to the site development agreement. We're still doing development. It's going to be doing development for quite some time. And, the indication back was that we need to think about something else. And then there was an ongoing dialogue to figure out what that something else might be. And that something else was in the amendment that you have. So just to level set on a couple of items there. Okay, in terms of an update. We continue through the EIO process. We had a meeting with CORE on Monday. They continue to indicate from where we are, and I think they're taking a very conservative stance on things, but nonetheless, from where we are today, it's probably another year. I think that's a little conservative, but nonetheless, that's their guidance that, you know, the section 404 record of decision is probably about a year, you know, April or so of next year out. What I would like people to understand, I do not, this is not on the board or on anyone else, this is actually on us. But this process is not only very long, it's also extraordinarily expensive. An EIS is a very comprehensive document. You know, there are those who are online who understand this, and you know, as we have gone through it and looked at the size of the resource that is impacted, or it has to be modeled for impacts, and the alternatives, which there are very few, in the general area, there's a lot of work to the tune of several times what, you know, being spent on the actual lease. We continue to spend those monies. We continue to go forward with that process. We continue to go forward with engineering. It's not a question of financial ability. It's a question of deployment of capital. To be quite honest, we're making an 8-figure investment down south in Lakeview right now on that asset that we acquired. SPAC, it would have happened, bless you. It didn't. We have pivoted for it and continue to fund privately with the Corps of Engineers, as I believe everyone is aware. Back in May of last year, in the Supreme Court ruling called Sackett versus EPA, the Supreme Court changed the definition of waters in the United States. I won't go into all the minutiae, but basically they said if there was not or is not a continuous surface connection between an adjacent wetland, in our case, and a recognized WOTUS, which in our case would be Bradbury, Smooth, Columbia River, then there is no longer federal jurisdiction, and jurisdiction devolves to the state at the top level. So as a practical matter, that means no EIS, no section 401 as well, which goes along with the section 404 process. So we filed a request for approved jurisdictional determination with the court. We filed that in the past. And the point of that was, look, what are we doing here? It's not a question of trying to get out of the EIS or not. We're doing the EIS. We're significantly through the EIS process, but I hate to go ahead and continue spending $300,000-$400,000 a month only to find out before it comes back and says, oh yeah, by the way, you don't have to do this anymore. So we filed that in December last year. The Corps received an indication. The Corps finished all of their analysis. We do not know their findings. They then sent the document out for EPA consultation. And beginning of this year, after the EPA had looked at it, the file was sent to Washington, D.C. for further coordination between the agencies. Ours was not alone in that regard. At last count, there's 30 plus HADs that are sitting in Washington, D.C. waiting for additional coordination, which is basically code for the agencies have some disagreement and they got to figure out where they come down on this. That process has a prescripted, I should say, set of timelines that they have to work through. Each time they come up to a timeline, they get extended. And again, it's not just us. It's everybody who's in this community, or the vast majority of high-profile projects that are in this. Our latest indication is that we will hear something back at the end of April. Now, we don't know what that is. Portland Port does not know what that is. And we're waiting to see what that is while we continue doing the work that has to be done. Our understanding, anecdotally, this is not official, but our anecdotal understanding is that the higher profile AJDs are now wrapped up in national election. And there is a desire to not decide. And that's coming, I think, from the top of the government. Because these are viewed as very political at this point. And consequently, we have heard that it could be post-November election before there is any rulings that are made on these AJDs. We don't know if that's factual or not, because I said it's anecdotal. But we're operating on the belief that it is factual. That the event will continue to kick the can down the road until such time as it's no longer political consideration. And at that point, it'll probably have a lot to do with the election in terms of how things shake out. So based on that, as we do our planning and our timing on this, we have the choice to assume that it takes a full period of time to get this EIS done, which means if we go to the 4 is guiding, it's another year. And so that puts us, basically into April. We will continue doing engineering, we will continue spending the money that we're spending. But it was that consideration, it was that we continue to work on the easements and right away. It was back in November, questions surrounding the dock itself, and unfortunately those, let's say, before those to be addressed in a very quick manner. Very quick. All of that came together to say, hey, look, we're partnering on this. We are spending a lot of money. People don't care. It's a very, very large number, very significantly above just the lease fee that paid to the board. We're willing to continue to do that, but what we've got to do is understand that this is going to be an extended process. Understand we basically put down a $3.5 million deposit, showing that non-refundable, showing that we are serious about making this happen. We want to continue to work on it and make it happen, but we'd like to work on this and see what we can do. Not looking to skip out. We're looking to defer the go back to the number that was in the stock development agreement and go from there. And so that's what is what is the plan. And so I would encourage you to to favorably consider this. I'm happy to answer questions and some comments, etc. And we'll go from there. We continue to be excited about this. We are continuing to invest money in the state of Oregon and capital into the state of Oregon. We're actually over, believe it or not, $100 million that we deployed in the state of Oregon. Not all here, certainly. We're looking at some other things as well. We want to continue here. But for my board, for my investors that are looking at capital allocation decisions, they want to understand that we have a strong partner here. We think we have a lot of support in the community. We have practice, which is fine. But we think we have a lot of support in the community. So,
Thank you, commissioners. Questions, Mr. Ethan?
So one of the reasons that I voted no last time was that we really never figured out your financial foundations. We watched in detail your specs. Once back. In this one. Yeah. We watched in detail your work so far. I guess what I'm trying to say is that a bond that would cover the payments that aren't made is not a huge expense if there will be money there and you not have to. So why wouldn't having a bond to protect the port's interest not be a useful addition to this amendment?
I'm more than happy to do what you obligate your other tenants to do. And if that is a rent bond or a lease bond, I'm happy to do it. I don't know how many other tenants have paid $3.5 million for land they can't use, but I'm happy to do what you asked them to do.
Well, that would be my choice, that you bond your.
And if we see that global and PGP and the various agricultural interests and everyone else are doing the same thing, then I'm happy to do it. I mean, I think fairness is a key part of what's going on. You know, I've heard that, well, what you're asking for is not fair to the poor. I take issue with that, frankly, simply because, again, as was pointed out in one of the comments, you know, we have a piece of land, we have access to people who can't use. And yet we pay $3.5 million on that. And we're willing to continue to pay on that and improve balance on that. But again, whatever is equally distributed across the the various tenants, we will absolutely follow what they're doing.
Currently don't have a lease payment bond, so.
No, yes, yeah. I don't know if we've ever felt, at this level of concern. I haven't been on the board long enough to know there could be things that happen. I started when this lease was signed, just put the month and a half into it. So that's my understanding. I think.
My question to the board is, have we ever had a similar situation where we've had a tenant request a deferral?
And that's my knowledge, we always get us to pay zero or at least refinancing packages from taking their past due rent and we've done severely past due and refinancing it at some second note. We've done that frequently. I focus on we've seen the way forward.
So I think what we're saying is this is a very unique situation that has never come up before. Am I correct in that assumption?
Not exactly before, no. It depends on how broad you're talking. You're talking about tenants that don't pay us and need to catch up. It happens continuously. We've never been out of that position, but.
I mean, we do have a history of working with people when they are in financial difficulty. And that is, my biggest concern is, much like you're saying, is are we being fair? Are we being fair to everyone who is a tenant of the sport? And it concerns me that we have a couple of tenants right now who are very much struggling. And no, they're not. They don't even begin to touch the $3 million investment that you have made so far, but to them, it's a very significant investment. To some of these people, it's their entire life involved in this. That is my concern. And I don't really understand why we have not been able to sit down with Next and come to an agreement that works for both us and for Next. I don't think that's impossible to do, but I don't think we've done it. And that's what I would like to see. I don't think we're prepared to take this forward. I don't think we have done the homework necessary in order to come to a decision that is equitable for everyone. I do not blame Next at all for what they're doing. They're doing exactly what they should be doing. My concern is the point. And are we doing what we should be doing? We have been asked, and we have not come back with any other option other than yes or no. Seems to me there are other options available to us, and we have not pursued them. That's what I would like to see happen.
Commissioner Putney, I want to-
Please.
I agree with. Just to be clear, when I first contacted the director and said, hey, listen, given everything we've talked about, we'd like to just go to the SBOA. He did push back and he said, that's not gonna work. We've got to figure out something else. We've got this number here, we don't want to just debate it, like this has happened in the past. We got to figure something else out. And so it was in back and forth there that we ended up with, okay, we'll go ahead and put it on the books and go forward with it. So I just want to I want to be clear, it's not like staff dropped the ball. They did. They pushed back and said, hey, that's not going to work. We need to figure out something else. And so that's for record. Now, could there have been more robust conversations all the way around? Sure, I guess. But they didn't. This wasn't something, sure, thanks, Chris. No, yeah, it didn't.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But I do think that Chip has a very valid point. And that is what I would like to see proceed. I don't know if we are in a position to table this and continue that discussion, or if people feel that a vote is absolutely necessary to be taken today.
Well, we're in a position to do the wish of the commission, the majority of the commission. Any others, any more questions for Chris?
I don't have any questions. I'll speak up and say I appreciate all the public comments and concerns raised, as well as Chris's explanation of the situation. And I do view the agreement that's in front of us as a compromise. I can see the reasoning behind, hey, we should only pay $15,000 a month. We're still under option. We haven't actually been able to develop anything. Why are we paying $180,000? Right. I wondered about that when I got on the commission. Seemed like should be an option until development happens. So I view this, as I said, as a good compromise. We defer it, you get 18% interest per year. That's pretty solid. So in my opinion, I would be in support of this and ready to vote.
Well, it is, the interest rate is definitely impressive, but it's not secured. It's an unsecured debt.
Yeah. I've heard often we should treat everybody fairly, or at least similarly. And the fact that we don't do that with anybody else. It's maybe a discussion to have in the future, but I don't know if we set a precedent. Start that process now.
I would echo much of what Brian said there. This leaves been signed for our commission. As a commissioner, we kind of have a fiduciary responsibility to see these projects through to the very end. That's part of our job, and I think this is a very good compromise.
I guess my comments are just, I also appreciate the public comment, and I appreciate those folks that are opposed to the project for different various reasons. I just find some of the logic about don't take the $15,000 a month, the reduction to that, make it zero for the port's best financial interest. That's a classic in high school, but 15,000 a month seems better than zero. In my book. And we have struggled with how to treat tenants the same. And the real answer is no two tenants are the same, but we try to be as consistent as is reasonable. We've had many dozens, maybe hundreds of, probably dozens of deferment agreements or catch-up agreements or all. We have only voted to terminate, unless my memory fails me, like almost 20 years, a handful, very small handful that just beyond hope. So we're trying to be consistent, promote it, and our key driving factor was jobs. If you rent land and don't have any jobs, then we're not as excited to work with you. If you have a lot of jobs, there's one recent local employer that we did a firm that had 80 some jobs at risk. We were very willing to work with them and do what we could, but that's our mandate here. So that's where I come down. The idea of treating the lease as consistent keeps getting brought up, and then we're being dinged about the Sealy lease of the 10 acres being reverted. That lease was put into place as the ability to use that land until the port needed it. It specifically called out in our lease to PG&E, and PG&E sublease to them. So technically PG&E is the one canceling the lease, but the sublease to them says that it's available to be used for agriculture until such time as the port needed it. And there's a remedy in there to explain how to make the farmer financially whole. And so this was not the destruction of acres of agriculture at all. It was anticipated in the lease. It was executed as the lease called out, and lots of notice was given so that it could be more timely, and we're asked for estimate of costs, and we're addressing that with the farmer right now. So exactly what the lease called out. To do anything different would be to change the lease. I believe that paying an option rate for now, so they get some certainty on the EIS is fair. The minute you get an EIS, they'll send you a bill for $180,000 a month for the rest of all of our lives. Not all will be voting yes. Any other questions for the commission or Mr. Reaper or staff? There, no. I would entertain a motion. The commissioner's pleasure on resolution 2024-20 or 03. Excuse me.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 2024-03.
I will second.
A motion by Commissioner Sorber, seconded by Commissioner Fawcett to approve resolution 2024-3, authorizing the court to enter a third amendment to ground lease with next commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Motion carries. And we'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Eater. Thank you to everyone who came to speak and everyone online who spoke. Thank you. All right, executive director's report. Well, that was a little business. Oh, the rest of the old business. All right, why not? I thought the meeting was going very quickly. Marina update. Here, and then again, I'll remind people that we put this as a placeholder, so some months or maybe that's new to them.
Good morning, Commissioner. So we have some new data that we received from PSET, Performance Sediment Evaluation Team. They reviewed the analysis of the testing, created report, and they have determined that the sediment for our dredge project is not suitable for environmental at the pass. So they're attributing this to historical use, industry use. So what that means for us, a couple of things. The highest let's look at the marina in three areas: the channel, the marina, and then the kayak area. So what that means is the highest concentrations were in the channel area, and we are not allowed to dredge the channel and dispose of either in water or up. Concentrations are too high. We were not able to dredge the channel at our last dredge either in 2015. The marina prism is, we only dredged a portion of it the last time. The center of the marina was not dredged. We did boat ramp and over by EDOT. You can see that. We'll take a look at that map in a minute, but if we dredge the marina, that sediment is not suitable for water disposal, so that sediment has to go and be disposed of upland. In addition to that, the Z layer needs to be capped with clean sand, at least a foot deep. So what we would do is over dredge the marina and then go back and cap it, which is an added expense, more time, more labor.
Not the same sediment, right? We have to bring it.
No, you have to bring in fresh clean sand. So if you look at the BBS. Then the kayak area is clean. It can be disposed of in water or upland. And that is also the shallowest area, and also needs to be dredged in order for us to continue with the improvement project with the new dock, new kayak feeders. And that is clean. The kayak area needs nothing.
Could that cap the other?
Perhaps. This is.
Seems too common sense, but maybe.
Right? There is, they may determine that they need a different type of product other than what's in the things, but that is an option that we are examining. So, our options are: one, can't do the channel; two, do the marina, over dredge by foot and recap it with sediment. I don't think kayak area is gonna have enough. It's only 20,000 cubic feet, and what we would take out of the marina is 60,000 cubic feet. So we dredge and cap the marina area. And then also the kayak area, or because of the added expense and time involved in doing this, now we just dredge the kayak area. Part of the reasoning for that is that we do at least some type of dredge, which received an award from OSMD for our dredge project.
Miriam, do you have any idea of the increased cost to do the whole project?
Right, so I reached out to get sediment depths, might be a little hard for you to see because it's so small, but we do have some handouts which you can just push the hands if you can't see the numbers on there. And I also reached out with some dredging contractors to find out what it would cost to do the additional capping. That was yesterday, we haven't heard back yet. So this is all new information that we're trying to respond.
The goal is by the time we have our budget workshop, second meeting, we should have some more information, but it's not gonna get cheaper, we know that.
One of the sites we've been looking at, have been focusing prior to getting to this, was the Railroad Avenue site, as an upland disposal to save costs and all the full length piping we put down the way around. It's turning out to be very complex and it probably would not save us any money in the long run because we have to do, the DEQ has just asked us to do a lot more consulting and environmental testing. The dredge sediment volumes of 60,000 cubic feet for the marina would take at least 5 to 7 acres, piled 8 feet high. So we need to find land that would take that volume of sediment. Wow.
We always get a lot of people asking, but it's always logistically too expensive.
Right. So we looked at some port properties. We don't have any that qualify for this project other than Railroad Avenue. We reached out to the city to talk to them about the lagoon that they're working on getting permits. And if they can take ours for fill, it would suit. They're not close enough in their permit project to meet our deadline. So, we have some options. We perhaps dredge the marina in the next 2 years or 3 years, providing and hoping that the city gets their permit and they can take our soils at a later date and dredge now for the kayak area. On this map, you can see in the center, there's little boxes that show the depths of the current marina and channel. So to focus on the depths of the marina, you can see that D-Dock is registered at 2 feet. This was taken some time ago when we started this project, this bathymetry, so we would go out and check it again and see if anything's changed. Our staff can do that. The lagoon area of the marina is 3, 4, 5, 6 feet.
This is all low tide.
This is all at low tide. So, and then down at the end of the E-Dock, you've got 8, 9 feet. But over by the kayak area, it's a mud flat. That's in the little ones. So it would show that the urgent need is the kayak area and in the covered mortgage area. Possible we can postpone dredging the marina until we find out their sources for disposal and focus on the kayak area. But these are some things we need to consider based on our upland disposal. We need to find land if possible, past transporting it, or trying to work with the DEQ, continuing what we've been doing to see if Railroad Avenue is still an option. DEQ has standards for the values for disposal, and then if now that our sediment has come back with higher levels, DEQ may find that they have higher restrictions for us to dispose of that soil than they would have had if it had been cleaner sediment. So our next step is to meet with DEQ and see if Railroad Avenue is still an option. But again, it's quite a bit of sediment. It's going to be 8 feet high. It would take a long time for it to filter, confirm it. There'd be a lot of construction prep to that. And then we would be able to develop on that area for a while until that soil needs to
So we have worst case scenario of having they could go to landfill potentially with what we pull out. And then also over dredging and cap. So both of those are, I mean, the numbers are. They're steep rising.
So is river that the best option? Pretty possibly.
Locks it up, I mean, it would lock up that property.
25 years.
But there's also the issue of the how dirty it is. Could we put there?
Well, but we don't know.
Right, that's right. That would be the path of the issue.
Is there any way that this is gonna pass, DEQ's qualifications to maybe distribute this to, pasture land type setting, or is that not even an option?
Our evaluators that came back are suitable for anything occupational land that's zoned for occupational land, which is not residential. Anything zoned residential is a no-go, anything occupational land is suitable, and that is mostly anything that's not residential, such as our phase 2 road, RV park, that is some marine commercial. So that would be suitable, but there are creeks and wetlands nearby. That's only 2 acres. So
My question would be kind of, if there's any neighboring properties to the marina, there is, a lot of it's, grassland pasture, if that's an option, maybe get a hold of those people and see if that's something they're interested in.
Another idea would be, I was just thinking, we've talked with, specifically one developer in the area that has huge fill requirements. If we were to stage it on into drains, so it's truckable, I think it's soup when it comes out. And then say about a year to drain, we will entire site at the one, guess available as fill without too much restriction. You know, if their specs are, if there is a big hole that needs filled, and we're gonna have sand, so.
You know, and a lot of this comes down to, you know, how close you are to main cost of transport, so I think. I mean, the best case scenario is that we can put it at the moment, start filling like we want to do near composites and work that. The problem is gonna be, it's close enough to wetland that they're probably not gonna let us put this level of whatever the readings are. I hate to say contaminated, but that's essentially what they're considering it. And if we put it that close and if we can check, we can cap it there, so there's still some things we can find out, that would help be self-serving for us and help us expand that footprint. Also at the entrance of Multnomah, there's the slope, the ground, you know, from Old Portland Road down into the site slopes. That's similar to what the issues.
And that circle, Biden circle, old circle, cable down there you're talking about?
We're circle, yeah, both sides of the road.
Yes, okay, yeah.
those are 1.5 acre plots, pretty small.
Yeah.
We have to kind of
Yeah.
throughout. We still have to, the hurdle is getting the approval of DEQ to place it at Railroad Avenue for however long it is until it filters and drains, and then we're able to transport it somewhere else.
Or what's upsetting about this is most of the worst sediment, if I understand right, comes from the channel. We don't know. State should. State, maybe they ought to kick in some money or a site or something. I feel terrible, the folks at the marina are gonna get the shaft. When we budgeted and do our work to do our part, and the state have, if we only budget, dredge the marina and leave the channel. You know, you need sailboats or large boats.
As low tide, as it is at low tide this summer, it'll be very difficult for our sailboats to get in. How many sailboats do we have?
Let alone our own personal staff member that has experience navigating that in July, so channel on her boat, so. So she felt like you were rubbing bottom, is that correct?
Oh, I was.
In July, so after, you know, we had this freshet and then the water's getting low.
Since we're not able to dredge the channel, we have to send notices to Tyson and send them home. Plans are, on the vessel they have, they should have notice.
We're happy to do our part in taking care of the state for this.
So
Is there any ability for funding from the state to clean up their mess?
we did receive funding from us.
Additional funding.
But OSMD specifically said it could not be for the channel, correct?
For our marina.
Yeah.
It's
so-
for, actually, it stays for the dredge project.
It seemed like they had restrictions before. Couldn't be the houseboats, you know, it's every
Well, and
recreational use.
should also point out that DEQ is pointing to downstream, I'll call it, industry, which is causing this. So you may remember there was talk at some point about making the whole Scappoose Bay a Superfund site. And I mean, that would obviously draw some funding, but I'm not sure what that limits what we can then do as far as we still continue to operate a marina. Knowing that we have to dredge periodic every 5-7 years. Is that sustainable? So there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot more questions this is driving us to for new information. So what's our timeline for me to figure this out? Basically, we have a period of time in which we do the dredging. And we have a lot of questions to still get answered.
We do have, with this new data, we do have a lot more research to do, more money to be spending on consultations, sampling, meetings, it's unpleasant, I mean, it's unfortunate, you say. So we want to dredge this October. We should go out to bid in late spring at the latest, because we wanted to get a contractor set up, because all the contractors in this area have to dredge in October. So any of the marinas are all going to be hooked up for that. They have to dredge in the state water work.
So we have a couple months. So
We have just a few months, and in that few months, we have to do all this approval with DEQ, approval with PSED, get one permit modified, a dredge plan, and then a disposal plan put together, and then get a contractor and RFP out. It would be very tight to do. If we delayed in trying to Road Avenue and getting all those pieces to come together, that would make it very tight to actually dredge in October. If we went ahead and just said, okay, we're gonna cut it off, we're gonna dredge it down this area only because we know it's simple, easy, we can just move forward with a dredge plan, get a contractor and do it, then we can likely be our dredge deadline. If we take the time to investigate and do what we need to do to jump the hoops to meet with DEQ and get that Road Avenue site disposal site at this point, it would be very questionable. It might happen, but it's very questionable.
we can have a conversation with DEQ to determine
Yes, yes,
if that's going to fit within our time.
that's our next step.
Yeah, I think the fall would be highly helpful. You know, for DEQ, and then, as we know on our other sites. Yeah, feasibility study took 28 years.
And I ain't gonna tell you, I'm not yet to put any spoils anywhere unless we have DEQ saying where you are on the record. Because they change the rules so often, we can put it there and we're stuck with it. And then we want at least to have one take almost what we can't do.
The fact that we do have a potential site right there where we're at, is great. I mean, some folks have to pump along with, well, we pumped around Warrior Rock before and to do in water, but they could keep it off.
Well, is a good decision pretty clear cut, dependent on the contamination levels. So is that hard to achieve? We certainly can have it tested, right?
Yeah.
It has been tested, and what DEQ now has to do is take the analysis and place it against their guidelines and consider the current neighboring portion of Road Avenue that's already contaminated and decide if they are going to have higher restrictions or stay with the guidelines and give us that determination. But there's several departments of DEQ that have to coordinate to make that decision.
But the data's already there.
Sorry,
The data's already
the data
there.
is there.
So doesn't seem to me like it should be that. I know. It's really afraid to say, so, but we haven't even tried.
No, we've been discussing this with them.
Okay.
And they would like to see that site used as a dredge site continually moving forward. It has been in the past a dredge location. But there's really tight restrictions and it's very complex with the burning, the filtering, transportation. existing conditions, capping. So they have to be a steady. They are.
A few years down the road, we might have.
Right.
Right.
Army Corps of Engineers.
So we basically won't know the for a month or so here until we hear back.
At best, a month or so. That would be.
So worst case scenario, in a month or so, we don't get the information we need, we're gonna have to make a decision on dredging kayak area. And hurry up and wait.
Meanwhile, we're all, like I said, a lot of us on the river are chasing some of the same bridge operators that are, have the same in-water work windows.
So there's that urgency to hurry up and get a dredger, but we can't secure that unless we have a dredge plan in an area. So we may not want to spend too much time getting results from the DEQ and lose that opportunity. So it's kind of.
Very tricky policy level decisions to be made soon. Taking. Any more questions from Mary? Thank you. So just as an agenda update, we're currently waiting with stuff and it's quite a bit of money, so gonna have Sean to do the magnetics update. Ellen's not here and Sean can address Paul last week's stuff in his comments. That's all I can do. But I can get the magnetics update for the folks that are here and then go into executive session and get the meter to stop running soon for our term. Acceptable.
And apologies, Robert, the Port Westford update is pretty short. Sure, yeah, I can crank it from both. Elliot is not here, he's on vacation, actually, he's coming back to join us tomorrow. I'll just read what he sent me. Last week, the temporary walkway was replaced by a permanent walkway with handrails. So on the new pipe bridge that they installed, we now have a permanent walkway, safe walkway with handrails. On Friday, the American Endeavor came alongside the ship and loaded approximately 58,000 barrels of renewable diesel that was already on site from before the incident. That was actually expected to come that week. The Endeavor, they was expected to load that product. It did not happen. So, and the dock remains ready to be used. So and we don't have any trains pointed towards Port Westford at this time. So, been waiting. That's it on the Beaver Dog accident. You guys have some questions about it? Okay. But next, I will apologize with the Washington DC trip. After the last meeting, Commissioner Sorber and I got a tour of Magnetics, which was really nice. I was really actually surprised inside to see that, oh yeah, there's a lot of sawdust around, but it's pretty, clean operation and a lot of stuff happening inside the building. It's, I haven't been able to get inside that building yet, so until that day, so I was really impressed with how big of an operation it is, and bringing trucks inside and loading. They have a lot of opportunity. One of the things we looked at was the truck traffic flow change, and we walked around and we speculated on, because it's a shift of personnel, so they're gonna actually would be splitting up their operation, so they're trying to figure out how to best to do that and that have the least amount of impact and most effectiveness for the truck traffic for rerouted. So apologize to not have more than that. I will reach out to Mike Sale this week and see how things are going with the Gantt chart and maybe see if he can send us an updated project management sheet there that we can look at and share around. So I will share my findings before the next meeting. Report.
We have an open dialogue with city and with and with the next.
I believe so. Would you agree? We're
Yes.
in communication there. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, let's take just a couple minute break because we're going to, could be a long executive session. I would say to anybody who would like to come back, we're happy to let you know. The only agenda items would be commissioner updates and
There'll be the airport updates and also revision and mission statement presentation.
Yeah. And gas on the executive session time. Because I guess there's 30 minutes, could be 30 longer. Folks are welcome to wait here. If there's somebody we can text or let know, we can give you a few minute warning on Zoom.
We appreciate working on it. Should we go in?
Yes. Board of Columbia County will now meet in executive session to pursue MSU law 19260 subsection 2E. Deliberate person designated to negotiate real property transactions. Cabinet to consider as a public record, including written advice for general counsel, which is graduation example disclosure. H, to consult with legal counsel concerning rights and duties for litigation. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend. The representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the discussions or deliberations that are during this or any executive session. Thank you. Before we return to open session, we don't expect any decisions to be made today. Any persons excluded from executive session are welcome to return to open session when it is.
Even?
Let me double check. Sorry about that.
Put a slideshow. Yeah.
We good? Okay, so what you've all been waiting for today is the vision statement. So we had our strategic business plan workshop. And we've taken that feedback, we're gonna be putting that into a revised draft, we got back from WSP, there wasn't a whole lot, but one thing that didn't get quite resolved was the mission and vision statement. So I'm gonna take that on today, maybe we can have more discussion about that, maybe get something approved. If you wanna go to the next one. So this is our current port mission and vision statement. If you notice, there's a lot of bullets there for the mission statement, and it gets a little bit lengthy. So we were trying to consolidate that a bit. This kind of part of this strategic business planning process. Even if we just swapped them, that would probably be has been a thought. You go to the next slide. So mission statements, I guess, just to kind of, I was putting this out there, they're generally short, single sentence, and it's a concise statement to describe purpose of the organization, right? So you want it to be an elevator pitch, we want it to be something that we can easily remember, right? That we can all memorize. And the first one that we have now is not very easy to memorize. You don't memorize. Next one. I might also, just for examples, some just general vision statements from some companies, just to show it's like, you know, these are short. Like, you need to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Pastors, their body athletes. Walmart, we save people money so they can live better. Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. So I guess that's the examples of. We're going for remedies. And then I got some port mission statements. Just as throwing them out there also of some local ports. Port of Portland, build shared prosperity for the region through travel, trade, economic development. Vancouver will provide economic benefit to community through leadership, stewardship, partnership, marine, industrial, and development. So they are very, you know, a lot of focus on economic development, but they're supposed to be doing, what they're tasked with doing, and benefiting the community. Next slide. So this is what
The first part is kind of is what WSBA came up with through all of our meetings we've had with them, the SWOT analysis. And then the original, I think it was the second work session where you discussed the mission statement and vision. We added guiding principles, which I thought I saw that done at a couple of other places where it kind of, you get some more of those words in there that people want to put in the mission statement, but then you don't need to have it all in the mission statement, but it's still like their principles that we are following. The one thing that I did hear from our last meeting when we talked about this was adapting to change was something that was discussed, so I added that in red, but I was still trying to keep it brief. So I guess the question is this capture what you guys believe is our mission, and do we still need to work on this?
I really like adapting to change. That is very, very good.
Okay, I accept that something. Target. Commissioners?
Should Missouri create a positive economic impact while maintaining the environmental assets in the district and adapting?
And that's pretty wordy.
It is still a little wordy. We can maintaining the environment. I don't think we need to change some of that out. But it's kind of like blah, blah, blah.
And they're so easy to have anymore that everybody has to get their verbiage in there and they'll just get bigger and won't get them and care of them.
I really like the mission statement. That's good.
Yeah, and then the vision is more descriptive of how we accomplish the mission.
It's definitely a sense to I feel like it's a lot of.
The vision.
Yeah, I like the creating a positive economic impact. We could.
I just say, well, creating a positive impact will making all the accounts livability. I hate to call out recreational stuff in our man, it's not fair, but we need to be responsible. Do it.
Well, it's a business.
Right. Right.
Do you want to take out environmental assets of the district and just say livability? Would that be? Or do we want to leave it?
I would, but I don't want to go to 5 people and probably all have 5 different visions and permission to get this 5.
I do think, well, that would be shorter, I mean, maintaining. I think livability is, encompasses more.
I think so.
I do like that.
So you suggest creating a positive economic impact and while maintaining livability, so.
Yeah.
Maintaining
That's contact.
I think it's affordable.
Am I even saying want to maintain the
And
livability?
so livability of the district? Or just livability?
Just livability.
Okay, if we want to add it out, we can change.
While being.
While it's after the change.
You're starting to switch it out.
I don't know if we want to keep it on there or not. We have adaptability in the guiding principles, so we could probably keep that. If we want to keep that out.
We would have, but I would say.
Create a positive economic impact while maintaining livability.
That sounds good.
No, on the mission statement.
Oh, that's what we were talking about.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the vision statement. So, no, adapting to change.
I think
That's huge.
Okay,
Maintaining, livability and adapting to change.
okay, so create a positive economic impact while maintaining livability and adapting to change.
I'm close, we're gonna come.
That's good.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, y'all good?
One sentence.
I'll come back with a resolution for this.
Yeah. Well, what about the vision?
We want to take the vision, so we didn't talk about that at the last meeting, but if you want.
Well, it's way too long.
It can be longer, the vision can be longer, so missions or statements, the visions can be more descriptive, but we can, if you want to change that.
To demonstrate core values to achieve economic return, it seems like too much right there.
I honestly was thinking about myself, this is something that WSP came up with based on discussions.
Can we circulate like
So we
three or
could
four
go-
of those to you guys?
Yeah.
Achieve,
Do that.
Why don't we all do strikeouts and adaptations, send them back and see if they can kind of decide
Piece it together.
how.
Stop trying to do it.
We'll send something out this afternoon
Okay, come on, let's do some.
At least we want to get ready to remember the mission statement now. I was gonna say, I'm very happy.
Yeah. I think mission statements. I think we could take some words out of the vision for sure and shorten that up. Also,
It's the principles, right there too, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay, so, yeah, we'll come back.
Nice job. I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah.
Hard work.
Well, I think the nice thing is we're all kind of thinking brevity of mission. So, that- Yeah, airport.
All right.
Last thing we have is airport.
Here's what's one more.
Oh,
So we need some good news today.
Well,
first time sharing. See if the. President left to share.
Commissioners. I'm here to talk about 5387 Rain Road. Also known as the Shack property, which was purchased in 2015 as a buffer property by a grant. Staff is seeking commissioner approval for the burning of a 2-story building on this property, adjacent to the airport. There's about 5 buildings. There are about 5 buildings with a barn, shop, shed, lean-to, carport, and this house. It is unsafe at this point. The staff reached out to, staff who's, Rural Fire Department, and they would like to help us in burning this property as a training. Yay. So do you have any questions about this property? Yes.
Is this the property kind of by Maloney's there across?
No, it's
Sorry,
on the east side.
On the east side,
Yeah, if you go past, you don't go into the Transwestern entrance, you go in, Greenery Road goes back and dead ends, and we have 2 different pieces of property.
Okay, I wasn't aware of this. Okay.
It seems like excellent,
Yeah.
I pushed very hard to buy that property for those folks who, for the FAA grant, got it. And we needed it.
This one had a map, I knew the property, knew the owner. And it was, and then you have the doggy property, which is
Yeah.
down the road.
Yes.
Yeah.
the dog keeper.
Vincent, I would add this, it is extremely difficult to get the fire departments to do those trainings, because there's a really high standard with EPU and all that crap, so if they're willing to do it, it's probably something we will get there.
Phyllis and Miriam have been working diligently on this, and this from the fire department and proof of ownership. And ODAP has no problem what we do with the property. There's some ties with the grant. And
Keep the power in the site, we made that.
we're going to cut the power, I think that's the power.
Is there a roll there issue?
Being on. But it is not an issue with the barn
Yeah.
or for the burning,
So they're just burning, not the house, they're burning
burning the house.
the house and all the structures.
No, not all the structures. The house is the most dangerous, unsafe, unsecure, and so they're going to be burning the house. Which was used as a shop at one point, and all of the history, but. That's the property.
I was kind of hoping for some executive director housing, but so they had to burn it, probably not that good.
So who picks up the debris? I mean, that's our responsibility at the end of the fire, or?
That's a great question. I would assume that we would be responsible for cleaning it up afterwards. They would burn it. We would be responsible for cleaning
There
up.
won't be a ton left. There won't be a ton left.
There will be another one filed, obviously, and the tenants and the airport neighbors.
It seems like a reasonable thing to do.
Yes.
I didn't, we started talking about this, it wasn't on my radar, and I don't remember, and Miriam's been dealing with this stuff for years, and she goes, they want to burn it, like, I think we need to bristle, we were trying to like, how do you burn?
Well, it'll do improvements eventually to the problems.
Yeah. It's helping us.
How many acres is that property? Not that you're ready to sell, but
I think that's maybe two, yeah.
If we pay about 330,000, FAA, that's 95%.
Oh, wow.
So is the intention just to leave it as buffer?
I mean, there's, yeah, but I think we have to some degree, but if you can see right here, it's near the entrance and, you know, I've maintained, we don't have a port presence out at the airport yet. At some point, maybe it makes sense that we have a welcome trailer or whatever we put there and Port Columbia County branded up top and. Yeah, I mean, that's someday.
Yeah, yeah.
And the rest of it would be buffered. Thanks.
Thank you.
The report, real quick, we did take care of one of the business, Commissioner, we have the issue of the second meeting. And if we're gonna do a budget workshop on the 27th, I would really like it to be in the morning so that we can get our budget committee members, they're not required to come to that, but we want to give them the option.
I think we're gonna want a lot of staff involvement too, because I think we have one question,
You know,
I'm not having a meeting to, or any meetings.
okay. Is that, that's the decision you guys have to make for the something?
Well, so what you're saying is, sometimes we change to making the meetings.
I don't think that'd be asked here, I think this is for, February.
Just, yeah, for the second March.
February, March.
Yeah,
And likely the April workshop would that be our actual budget committee meeting?
No, that's May.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, if you guys want to talk about permanent, no leading means that's another topic.
Just take them as they come. When we're doing public input, sometimes it's being like appropriate, but they're challenging on staff. I would like to do a few appreciation meetings this summer for events. When the weather's better, it's still light. When we have lawyers and consultants and things like this, it was really one.
So we pay on the 27th then of advertising that as
Or the other option has always been if it's afternoon is better than morning. That's fine too, but it's like you're on work there when the staff to go.
So is this any coming up where you involve the budget committee?
Only if they choose to.
Yeah, it's not an official budget. Really, we're the same budget, we're gonna be mainly talking capital. Yeah, some priorities. Yeah, and then we call them, but yeah, they can definitely, we want them to know about it and come if they want to.
And do we have a full conference?
I think we're close and process. Yeah, it's in the process, but we definitely have interest, which is
That's great.
great, yeah. Really pleased about that.
Any other questions?
And let's see, if you have my director report in front of you, if you have any questions on it. I'm trying to think of being highlighted here. That you should know about, oh, I do need to fill out the table for the South County Chamber Awards. We have 8 spots at our table. I am hoping to do something that I already had planned for that evening. But anyway, I think we have 2 staff that are going. Mr. Fox is at another table, he'll be there, but be at our table. So if anybody's interested, please let me know, otherwise I'll end up with staff and we'll.
It will be in Texas.
You're going.
What were the dates?
Saturday, March 23rd, Saturday. 1 week from Saturday.
I will go check.
I'll reach back out and find out who the table staff perhaps.
And we might get an award.
Yeah, we are nominated for Sustainable Business of the Year, so we can see how that shakes out. We'll likely win.
No.
Yes.
Sean, any questions of Sean?
Maybe set the actual time for the meeting.
Does anybody want to do anything other than 8:30?
I would like to be virtual that day. More back in 8:30. I cannot do the afternoon. If you want to make. I cannot do the afternoon then.
So 8:30? I don't know. We're looking forward to a budget meeting.
If you guys are okay, I'll put a little more detail in my executive director's report about DC. Nothing major to report, but I'll give you some of these.
Chip, anything?
Went to the meeting, you guys meeting last night,
I guess that's the thing. Brian?
In the interest of time, I don't have anything exciting.
Nothing to report in the interest of time.
Quoting Brian, but the president answered.
I'm good.
I just agree, I just wanted to do one quick thing. I just want you guys to know, I know I talked to many of you a few weeks back and we heard some rumblings from some of the people working around Global that maybe the port wasn't being as responsive or wasn't getting everything we needed with regard to the legal of the dock. So and I asked Sean and Elliot and I think several to meet with the Global folks we met here and the answer I got from that was things were moving well. And the issues were being addressed and that we needed a format to keep these issues going. A couple weeks later, I heard the same complaint, so I have been making phone calls to members of the CET committee that were in the meeting where there was concern about our efforts. I took the time to get with Elliot and went in depth and extreme depth over what we've done, where we're at, what's going on at the dock. And you heard some of those comments earlier today about not having a plan for birth through and things, and I found that to be extremely inaccurate. I reached out to Global on the East Coast and told them you're not doing any good if you just say nice things. What are your concerns? And directly from Eric Slick, things are proceeding well. We thank the port for their efforts. So they were running, they needed 90 days and we had product available to flow in 88 days. So that's a testament to how hard their people worked and how hard Elliot worked with them and our staff. And he was quite pleased. They said their long-term concerns are the repairs to Berth 2 and how that's going to proceed and pipeline issues. He also, we're going to be introduced to their new director of West Coast operations shortly. And the first agenda item is for Elliot. And I think Sean is one of us, and I'm going to sit in as well in a meeting to identify long-range issues, concerns. So it's our hope that Global will be happy there. We'll continue to bring new projects and use the whole dock and be done. That would be fantastic. So, and they agreed. So those efforts are out there. I wanted to just tell you that when I sat down with Elliot to go over all the issues that I could find, and I called around first to find out what the issues were. They were really well addressed, and the man is very thorough. I've got some emails between him and Dan Lockett about how well things have worked. And to be fair to the port, mostly what we did was get out of the way with our bidding processes and things that allowed them, but Elliot, working through Bob and Sean, was in the office with them as these decisions are being made. We do have a bunch of decisions being made about ownership, ability, and where the thing is on the dock, and a lot of things to do because we got that dock running in 88 days. And didn't stop and worry about formal agreements and things. But I am convinced that we're doing well, that we're treating our partner well, that they're happy. And the staff is performing very well. And I appreciate it, because I've asked a lot of them in getting ready for these meetings. They came through very well. I appreciate it. I think they would like you to have Elliot, but would like you to have a lot of people. Yeah, and what we're doing, they're able to do as well. And there's many of the staff. Anything further? On a good meeting, thank you. That's part of the meeting. It's fun, right?